Many people have been asking about the trip to Italy, and I see that some of the people who are on the trip with me are here now at this Mass, and so I'm sure people have been asking you as well. What was your favorite part? What are some of the highlights? Are you glad that you went? And I think all of us would answer that question differently, but for me, personally, it was being in the space where Padre Pio lived, both where he grew up, but then also, and in particular, where he spent the vast majority of his priesthood at San Giovanni Rotondo. Padre Pio is really amazing, and I know he's one of the most popular saints, so probably most of you have at least heard his name, but his story is very significant. And he was ordained in August 10th, 1910, at the young age of 23, which wouldn't even be possible by canon law now. You have to be at least 25. And less than a month after his ordination on September 7th, the first occurrence of the stigmata began with the searing pain in his hands and in his feet that tortured the young friar. This is in addition to the fact that he already possessed a sickly nature. And so with his sickness going on and then the disability that the stigmata was causing in his flesh, at a certain point, the community just sent him back to Pietrelcina, where he grew up, to be with his family and to recuperate. But the pain was so difficult in his flesh that he couldn't even ascend the steps to his family's house. Why all this drama? Now, one could look at this suffering that he's already beginning at the very outset of his priestly life, and if you know your good Catholic theology, you respond naturally, well, he's conformed himself by virtue of holy orders to the person of Jesus Christ, who himself suffered tremendously. And so we see in this affliction, this conformity with Jesus, the high priest. I mean, after all, Isaiah even described this messianic figure as one who would be crushed by infirmity, who would give his life as an offering for sin, and through his suffering would justify many. And so here's Pio doing the same thing, and that's awesome. Okay, but it really just backs the whole question up. Why does Jesus' priesthood look like that? What is going on here? These are the things that I had been reflecting on when we were in San Giovanni Rotondo, and then also when I was looking at the Sunday readings on the long plane ride and pondering the words of Isaiah. And I kept, as I was asking the question, going back to the garden. It's like where all the answers that we need are, they're all in the garden. Isaiah's words, all this suffering, should evoke in us the curses that God delivered to Adam. Remember what God said, "Cursed is the ground because of you. In toil you shall eat of it. Thorns and thistles it shall bring forth to you. In the sweat of your face you shall eat bread, till you return to the ground, for you are dust, and to dust you shall return." Why this is significant, and why I think it points to the answer to the question, is because Adam is the father of all humanity, and we know this, but too often we understand his mission to dominate and to be fruitful from a biological perspective, like he is literally the biological father of all of humanity. But remember, he's also our spiritual father, which is why when he falls, all of humanity falls with him in the order of grace. And so we can say he's not just our biological father, he's also the first priest. And the mission that he had from God that is now being cursed, that mission continues, but it's infinitely more difficult. Now, the exercise of his fatherhood and his priesthood is going to be resulting in thorns and thistles and sweat and toil and death. And we see Jesus, when we look at him, who is the new Adam and the new high priest, living this out in his priesthood. He tills the soil of the human heart, and he gets in return a crown of thorns and thistles. The sweat is sweat of blood that happens in the Garden of Olives that pours down his face and his whole body. And then there's the tomb in which they lay him so that he can return to the dust from which he came. But what Isaiah is contributing here is that this fulfillment of Adam's curses isn't just hitting the boxes on the menu. Isaiah is saying all of that suffering is actually going to be redemptive. So the curses become the pattern of redemption. First with the cross of Christ, but then by virtue of our baptism, technically every Christian. That then, now take that all back and look at Padre Pio. Here is this man who is conformed to Christ by virtue of his baptism, but then in a particular way, at the moment of his ordination. And the suffering just gets piled on layer by layer by layer. Beyond the stigmata, eventually his wounds are going to cost him 2 cups of blood every single day, which will not be replenished. Others will accuse him of deceit because the whole thing is a sham. He's lying about it. His bishop is going to begin a campaign against him. The Holy See will open an investigation of him. His faculties for Mass and confession are stripped away from him for years. And then at night, when he would lay his head on the pillow to find some solace and consolation, at least of sleep, the devil would physically attack him, leaving him with incredible wounds. At other periods in his life, he would suffer in different ways, like 15 hours of confession every single day. He would get only 4 hours of sleep. Thousands of letters would be sent to him every single year that would require responses, and he would be operating on less than 500 calories a day. Your pastor is no Padre Pio. That sounds terrible, right? Doesn't that sound terrible? But what does it produce? Think about this. What does that produce? Well, myriads of people, because of Padre Pio, have converted. Millions of pilgrims have visited his tomb looking for Jesus. Countless more souls are in heaven because of him. And that is the mystery of the Christian life. That as Christians, we take up the curses of Adam, knowing that they are now made redemptive because of the person of Jesus Christ. And therefore, we don't wail against them. We seize them as opportunities. So what that means then is you consider the circumstances of your own life that are undoubtedly peppered with so many inconveniences, cursed by so much pain, sickness and death, indignities and apathies all the while. Know that this is just part of the curse. Life is hard, we say. Not that it was meant to be this way, but it is this way now. However, in Christ, this new Adam, that curse becomes the blessing. And on account of your baptism, that is your story. Now, you might not have the stigmata, and thank God you don't, but you do have a cross and the mission to carry it. So carry it, knowing that you, O baptized priest of Jesus Christ, as Isaiah also goes on to promise, shall see your descendants in a long life, and the will of the Lord is accomplished through you.